The Philippines has just achieved a significant victory in the long-standing conflict in the West Philippine Sea. For years, the Philippines has faced relentless pressure from China over these disputed waters, a region rich in natural resources and strategically vital shipping lanes. The West Philippine Sea is not just a name on a map, it's a lifeline for the Filipino people, a source of food security, economic opportunity, and national pride. But the story doesn't end there. In this video, we'll break down how the Philippines, against all odds, managed to turn the tide, forcing China to retreat and securing a crucial win for their sovereignty. We'll examine the key players, the strategic decisions, and the global implications of this pivotal moment. The West Philippine Sea, a body of water teeming with marine life and rich in energy resources, has long been a source of tension in the region. This vast expanse of water is not just a geographical feature, but a lifeline for many, providing food, livelihood, and potential energy reserves that are crucial for the economies of surrounding nations. At the heart of the dispute are competing territorial claims, with China asserting its expansive 9-dash line, which encroaches on the exclusive economic zones of the Philippines and other Southeast Asian nations. These overlapping claims have led to a complex web of diplomatic and military tensions, making the region a flashpoint for potential conflict. For years, China has been aggressively asserting its presence in the region, constructing artificial islands, deploying maritime militia vessels, and harassing Filipino fishermen in their own waters. These actions have not only disrupted the livelihoods of local communities, but have also raised serious environmental concerns due to the extensive dredging and construction activities. The situation escalated dramatically in recent months, with a series of increasingly bold actions by China. These actions have included not just the deployment of more vessels, but also the use of aggressive tactics that have heightened the risk of direct confrontation. We saw Chinese Coast Guard vessels using water cannons against Philippine supply ships, preventing them from reaching a Filipino outpost at Second Thomas Shoal. This incident was a stark reminder of the lengths to which China is willing to go to assert its claims, even at the risk of international condemnation. We saw swarms of Chinese fishing vessels, believed to be part of China's maritime militia, anchoring en masse within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, effectively denying Filipino fishermen access to their traditional fishing grounds. This tactic not only undermines the Philippines' sovereignty, but also threatens the food security of its coastal communities. These actions, a blatant disregard for international law and Philippine sovereignty, sparked outrage in Manila and sent alarm bells ringing across the globe. The international community has been vocal in its condemnation, but the question remains: what concrete steps will be taken to address these aggressive maneuvers? The Philippines, under the new administration of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., found itself at a crossroads. The new leadership had to navigate a delicate balance between asserting national sovereignty and maintaining crucial economic ties with China. The question was, how do you stand up to a global superpower, especially one right at your doorstep? The challenge was not just about military might, but also about diplomatic strategy and international alliances. The answer, it turned out, was a multi-pronged approach, a combination of strategic resolve, international diplomacy, and a firm commitment to upholding the rule of law. This approach required careful planning and coordination with international allies to ensure a united front against any aggressive actions. The Philippines, under President Marcos Jr., took a decidedly different approach than his predecessor, Rodrigo Duterte, who had often downplayed the Chinese threat and sought closer ties with Beijing. Marcos Jr.'s administration marked a significant shift in the country's foreign policy, emphasizing a more assertive stance on sovereignty issues. Marcos Jr., while still seeking to maintain economic relations with China, made it clear that he would not compromise on Philippine sovereignty. This stance was a clear message to both domestic and international audiences that the Philippines would not be easily swayed. He strengthened ties with traditional allies like the United States, Japan, and Australia, all of whom shared concerns about China's growing assertiveness in the region. These alliances were not just symbolic, but involved concrete steps such as joint military exercises and strategic dialogues to enhance regional security. The Philippines, facing down a formidable opponent in China, knew it couldn't win a war of attrition. The sheer size and power of the Chinese military made a direct confrontation unthinkable. They couldn't match China ship for ship, but they could leverage their strength, their knowledge of the waters, their unwavering resolve, and their strategic ingenuity. The growing international concern over China's actions also played a crucial role in their strategy. The Philippine Navy and Coast Guard, despite being outgunned and outmanned, adopted a strategy of persistent presence. They were determined to make their presence felt. They increased patrols in the contested waters, documenting and publicizing every Chinese incursion, every act of harassment, and every violation of international law. This meticulous documentation was crucial in building a case against China on the international stage. They modernized their equipment, acquiring new patrol vessels and aircraft, enhancing their capabilities significantly. Some of these advancements were made possible with the assistance of their allies, who recognized the importance of supporting the Philippines. They also made it clear that they were willing to stand their ground, even in the face of Chinese aggression, showing remarkable bravery and resilience. The turning point came when the Philippines, in a bold move, released footage of the Chinese Coast Guard using water cannons against their vessels. This act of transparency was a game changer. The images beamed around the world sparked international condemnation, putting China on the defensive and drawing global attention to the issue. This strategic use of media, coupled with the Philippines' unwavering diplomatic efforts, began to shift the narrative in their favor. The world was watching, and China's actions were being judged on the global stage, altering the dynamics of the conflict. China, accustomed to acting with impunity in the region, found itself facing a new reality, a more assertive Philippines, backed by a growing chorus of international condemnation. The geopolitical landscape was shifting, and Beijing could no longer ignore the growing resistance to its actions. The pressure was mounting, both diplomatically and economically. International leaders were vocal in their disapproval, and the economic ramifications were beginning to take a toll. The United States, Japan, Australia, and European nations issued strong statements of support for the Philippines, reaffirming their commitment to freedom of navigation and the rule of law in the South China Sea. These nations were united in their stance, sending a powerful message to China. They increased their naval presence in the region, conducting joint exercises with the Philippines and other Southeast Asian nations. This show of force was designed to deter further Chinese aggression. This show of solidarity sent a clear message to Beijing. The world was watching, and China's actions were not going unnoticed. The international community was prepared to stand together against any unilateral attempts to alter the status quo. The economic fallout was also being felt in Beijing. The Chinese economy, already under strain, began to show signs of further stress as international businesses reconsidered their positions. International businesses, already wary of the risks associated with China's aggressive behavior, began to reconsider their investments. The uncertainty was palpable, and the potential for long-term economic damage was significant. The reputational damage was significant, undermining China's efforts to portray itself as a responsible global power. The narrative Beijing had worked so hard to build was unraveling. Faced with this mounting pressure, China blinked. The combination of diplomatic, economic, and military pressure proved too much to bear. They began to withdraw some of their vessels from the contested waters, a tacit acknowledgement that their aggressive tactics had backfired. The retreat marked a significant moment in the ongoing struggle for control in the South China Sea. The Philippines' victory in the West Philippine Sea wasn't just about military might. It was a testament to the power of diplomacy, international law, and a united global response. The Philippines, from the outset, framed the dispute within the context of international law, specifically the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS. They invoked the landmark 2016 ruling by the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, which invalidated China's expansive 9-line claim. This legal victory provided a powerful foundation for the Philippines' diplomatic offensive. They rallied international support. garnering statements of support from numerous countries and international organizations. They also engaged in direct dialogue with China, seeking a peaceful resolution to the dispute while remaining steadfast in their defense of Philippine sovereignty. This multi-pronged approach, combining legal arguments, diplomatic outreach, and strategic partnerships, proved to be highly effective. It showcased the power of a rules-based international order and the importance of collective action in the face of aggression.